You know, Aaron said something very interesting somewhere in his talk. I think towards the end. He said we have to find some middle ground between the overambitions of the freedom agenda, of the Bush doctrine, and perhaps the lack of ambition of what was the first 5 years of the Obama presidency. What is the Goldilocks formula? That's essentially, you would agree with me, that's what we're looking to do. And let me make two brief suggestions. One of them is this: the purpose of American foreign policy should not be, particularly in the Middle East, should not be to make our dreams come true, because your dreams will never come true when it comes to the Middle East. Not Israel-Palestine, not democracy in Iraq, not development in Afghanistan, not women's rights in Saudi Arabia, not gay rights in Iran, and so on. However, we can have an achievable goal of keeping our nightmares at bay, and we can define what those nightmares are. We don't want Iran to get a nuclear weapon. We don't want ISIS to consolidate a caliphate in northern Iraq and Syria. We don't want the humanitarian disaster of Syria to spiral endlessly and affect all of its neighbors. Okay. How do we calibrate a foreign policy that keeps our nightmares at bay? That is the question.
Let's let Paul Pillock respond.
You know, Bret's absolutely right that we can't think in terms of what our dreams are in the Middle East, and that's exactly part of what Aaron and I are criticizing. Again, Iraq 2003, the outstanding example, 2003 plus 8.5 years. We had a dream, or at least the makers of that war had a dream, of using the regime change in this central Middle Eastern state to stimulate free market economics and democracy, not just in Iraq, but throughout the region. It was the dream. It wasn't meeting a threat. It was trying to use military force to accomplish a more positive objective. And that's one of the ways we went wrong. You know, meeting real threats, absolutely. And Bret gave a couple of excellent examples in his initial presentation, like World War II. We couldn't agree more. But it's where we've gone beyond meeting threats.
Paul, what about the example he gave of the Yazidi community stuck on the top of a mountain facing genocide? That's not a threat to our national security. Was it our business militarily?
Well, it was a threat to the Yazidis. And I think there are some very tactical decisions that have been very difficult for the administration to make, and we can get really down in the weeds in terms of hitting this mountain rather than that mountain. And I don't think Aaron and I are saying, despite the efforts of our worthy opponents to frame the debate in a way that we have to say that every use of military force is for the worst. That's of course not what we're saying.
Yeah, may I just try to frame this? Look, we are stuck in a region we cannot transform and we cannot extricate ourselves from. We have interest, allies, and enemies there. When you cannot transform and you cannot extricate, that leaves only one course, which is, I would argue, my word, you transact. You essentially apply a cruel and unforgiving standard to what constitutes American national interests, and you willfully pursue those interests. You decide what's doable from what isn't, what is vital from what is discretionary. And when I say vital, what do I mean by vital? I mean an enterprise in which we are prepared to expend American lives, American treasure, and American credibility. That leads you back to the one thing most Americans do care about, and that is the protection of the continental United States, which in effect was the basis for Obama's intervention.
Mike Duran.